This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
Cannot complain. It's been a minute since we've had any bloggers on the show. And
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. Let me get everything set up. There we go.
No, all good. And
sorry, this update has me all set up. Here we go.
It was a pretty packed Purge thing. It could have been more packed, but that's okay. That's why I do those various movie franchise chats, because I know we can't all be on the same chats at the same time, so I want to keep the discussion open. So we, again, for anyone listening for the first time and for our guest here, there's many times where we have redone it. We've just said, okay, let's talk about the villains. That way we can illustrate the good writing. Let's talk about our favorite moments. Let's talk about...
I like it.
Let's revisit the franchise since it's coming back to the movies or TV, whatever the hell. And we've explored even the various comic books, video games, and cartoon spin-offs of some of these. And those are always fun because you just never know who's going to cash in versus who's actually going to do something even deeper with that format. Make good use of the license. So tell me how you got into doing various genres, let alone what ignited your blogging. You've talked about it on your actual blog, but for those...
Yeah, absolutely, man. So actually, the blogging thing is fairly recent. It's been about 6-7 months I've been doing that. And I actually, for several years, had a horror podcast that I was doing with a buddy of mine.
Sweet.
And loved it. It was great for the time that we did it. Life happened and he lives a good bit far away from me. So, and I wanted to keep doing it. And I was like, I also have this love for not just horror movies, but any dramas, any thrillers. I got like a soft spot for rom-coms at times. So
yes.
I wanted to do the blog so I could cover stuff like I covered Furiosa the other day. Like just got to do that. I covered Iron Claw when that came out. Just it gave me more range while still being able to take what I want from the horror genre.
You're big on monster movies and psycho fillers. Yep.
Oh yeah. Love those.
Like many of us
horrors
are,
where my heart's at. Yeah. No, absolutely. Horrors where my heart's at. And so I was like, you know what, let me get this blogging up, and that way it's really just a creative outlet for me so I can put thoughts on pages. Sometimes I'll write a real short one. Sometimes I'll go on, and I try not to overcomplicate it. I just try to put thoughts to paper. It's just good to get out there and put out there.
Is your backdrop of your blog the bar from The Shining?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, I'm glad you picked that up. I wanted to.
Everyone else is going to go, oh, Inception, it's big. I'm like, nothing looks like that in Inception.
Nope, you got it. It's I was like, let me find something generic enough, but people will pick up on it. Because I always found myself like watching these movies. Like the idea just came to me. It's not a super creative idea on how I came up with like the thoughts of the blog and everything. Like the stylistic way of it is just sometimes we'll sit down, have a glass of bourbon, make an old fashioned, and sit down and watch a movie. And I was like, sometimes I feel like I'm in a speakeasy. So I was like, you know what? I got a real creative kick one night, and I was like, I'm doing this. And so I pulled my Surface up and was just doing all that. Yeah, man. So it's good. But yeah, I've been doing the podcast. I haven't done the podcasting for a little bit. That gets to be...
What was the name of your horror podcast?
It was called Pillar of Thriller. So
Pillar of Thriller. I love it.
Yeah, so we had some... What I was really happy with, we had some good guests. We had, I think my favorite one, we had some guests that are just like some horror content creators, but we got David Howard Thornton that plays Art the Clown. So we interviewed him, which was really fun. I'm actually seeing him at a signing around where I live.
For those who don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I'm pumped. He's super nice. We got to talk to him and kind of talk to him for about 45 minutes, and that was incredible. So that was we enjoyed like getting a big fish like that, but also like we did the same thing like what you're doing now, like found other creators, bloggers, and just like to collaborate with them.
I see so many who just like it's weird, dude. It's like they bottle up, they get all
Mhm.
freaked out, and like it's not like you're public speaking, dude. Just
No,
do what you want. Don't live
yeah,
any
just have
life
a
until it's
conversation.
I grew to a point where I was like, I can't find anyone really talking about some of these movies, just anything from
Mhm.
old, terrifying 70s telefilms to
Mhm.
cheesy sci-fi channel movies to well done TV
Mhm.
shows. And it was just getting to that point. It was like, well, share your voice
Right.
and improve it, try different editing, share hysterical clips, have a sarcastic episode once in a while. We just did a
Oh, I love
birdemic
it.
episode coming out soon, so it's like,
Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
it's just
So
like
do you do the podcast with several other people?
yes, and I've
Mm.
finally gotten out of my shell to where I'll do some solo ones, and I make sure there's some
Mhm.
epic music playing in the background and some cool clips,
Mhm.
and but it takes a while. But I saw so many other
Mhm.
people doing it, and it's like, hey,
Mhm.
just it's just like practicing in the mirror. Just
Yeah,
unleash, just reveal yourself.
that's what I find some of the hardest stuff is like you want to like sometimes I was doing like TikTok videos, like very short ones. I see people do really great in that,
Hmm.
and I'm not doing it for views. I'm doing it because I just need the creative outlet, and I'm like, oh, this is a cool concept. Like talk about something really quick, and then I get in there and watch it, and I'm like, did I say anything or did I say a whole bunch of nothing? I'm like, it sounded like I said something.
Yeah, it's a rough experiment.
Mhm.
Um, well, it's a shame you don't have glasses. I found out when I was doing theater, if I want to get rid of
Mhm.
all my friends who are giving me shit-eating grins in the front row,
Mhm.
just take my glasses off. I'm not affected by anything that's on their face that's going to distract me from giving a bravado performance. So it was just,
Oh,
but
love it.
but yes, for those who don't have that to look past,
Mhm.
it's just weird, man. It's just like, hey,
Mhm.
why let anyone distract you?
Right.
Just
It's just all talking about stuff you love. And like you're talking about it, I assume you love the Purge series and the franchise and everything. So like getting to talk
I
about
tried
that, man.
inviting people who I know didn't like them too, because
Mhm.
for lack of better, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I try to validate everybody.
Oh yeah.
Why does this franchise, this isn't necessarily a
Mhm.
lowbrow franchise, but you might find it trashy fun, or you might legit love it, or you might hate it, or you might find it so bad it's good. I want to know
Mhm.
why you even bothered with any of these franchises or TV shows in the first
Oh
place.
yeah.
And it is always fun. There's plenty of other examples. Anything from The Prophecy to Evil
Mhm.
Dead to even Highlander is
Mhm.
just like I'll see
Oh
everybody.
yeah.
They're watching it, but it's not necessarily always for the right reasons, or there are fans who view it that way, so they're just part of that quarter of that fan base. That thinks that
Mhm.
way. It's just fun. It's just like you never know.
Yeah. You can't go around trying to pick everything you say and say everything I watch is always going to be amazing. Like it's just not going to shake
No,
out like that.
it is always a hoot though. It's just like when you talk to
Mhm.
people who have seen all the different. Well, it's not true for all fan bases, but
Mhm.
in more recent years, I think a lot of fans have just softened up and just said, "Hey, I'd be pretty happy too if I was part of this big epic saga too." So it's like
Oh yeah.
people who have seen all the Friday the 13th movies, all the Star Trek TV shows,
Mhm.
anything, they're to that point where it's like they've seen all the good ones a million times and all the bad ones a bunch
Mhm.
of times as well.
Yeah. And they love it. Like I
Yeah.
think I talk about Friday the 13th. Like I watched part 7 nonstop, like First Blood,
Oh, there
and
you go, man. See, that's a great
it's not because
example.
I love it. It's you will go back and watch it like man, this was supposed to be Carrie versus Jason, and
Right,
I'm like
Terminator
I
versus
don't even
Carrie.
care that they did a Walmart version of this. I love it.
Well,
It's
don't get me
awesome.
started on Manhattan, where it's just like
Oh yeah,
gotta
you
love
see
a
Times Square for
boxer.
5 seconds.
Yep, a boxer. He gave it his all. He couldn't defeat Jason. No way in hell. But hey, he tried. He tried,
Clean
man.
knock off the block. Clean off the block.
Knock your block out.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Oh man. So Courtney Rothone. Is that how I pronounce it?
Roethle.
Roethle. Courtney
Yep.
Rothble. Yes. The movie Speakeasy blog. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And like I said, I'm trying to grow it a little bit. It's just right now it's creative thoughts. And if it grows, awesome. If it connects me with people like you, even better. Like that's really what it's all about.
Kudos to your Twitter, man. You're always sharing some fun topics. I saw so many other posts that were doing questions, but it was turning quickly into clickbait. It's like they really don't give a fuck what you actually say. It's verified, yada yada. It's a promoted account.
Yeah. I try to like with Twitter, I can do quick thoughts. I try to get takes out, but you're 100% right. Sometimes you see them and you're like, this is an abnormally weird take just to get engagement.
Oh, trust me. 2 years ago, dude, I really looked at myself long in the mirror and was like, why do I keep running into these mouse traps? Like I would next thing you know, I log on the next day and there's like 5 different replies to one like 24-hour chat. I'm like, good God, are we really going back and forth on this still? Please. I'm not I'm not going to tell you to stop. It's your right, but I'd like to somehow leave this conversation and I can't because I posted earlier. So the updates are ringing off the chain, so I can't even find the original comment I posted.
Yep. Like I have no idea where to go from here.
Oh, and I didn't even know what we were talking about. I'm just like, we should be helping each other grow. Do you want me to exchange a promo? No, you're just complaining about some plot twist that was meant to be divisive. Okay.
Yep. That's what it's supposed to do.
And a David Lynch movie. Oh, come on now.
Oh, yeah, I can't do that.
That's just not going to work.
Yep. Trying to make sense of too much over here.
Arguing if the ending to Total Recall, talking about what you'd like in a new Freddy movie, and it's like, oh, Lord, let the floodgates open.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. That's how it goes. That's the internet, man.
That's how it goes. And I do applaud you though for braving TikTok. I've had to tell my sister, hey, step away. There's 5 douchebags who have just sent you just the most shittiest thing ever. They're hoping that you'll post back and they'll be rewarded with a crappy complaint and you lose either way because people see that angry side of you, which is not you, but in the moment you let it out. You don't need that, to haunt you.
Yep. No, I definitely, I thought about it. I was like, this is cool just because it's quick thoughts. I don't even care if anyone sees it, but I can look back and say, this is what I thought about this. And then it became too much of a production. And I was like, I'm just gonna write it more. I like the writing more because I can sit there and just like you're texting. Like I sit there, usually I'm doing it on my Surface, but sometimes I will like save a draft, go to my phone. I'm like, oh, I just thought about this, about what I was in the middle of writing. Because like I will get blocks randomly. And I'll just go and I'm like, all right, I need to take a step back and then take a step back and then I'm like, oh, this is what I was going for here. And just it's floodgates open again. So
oh man. Well, hey, so I thought the Purge was going to be more agreeable. Even people who don't really know what it's about kind of want to seek it out morbidly, curiosity, out of morbid curiosity. And it's funny how, it's got John Carpenter action. I've seen people compare it to Snake Plissken. I've seen people compare it to Panic Room. So there's a bit of mystery thriller, crime undertone, and then the horror aspect of the home invasion kind of thing. So there's a bit of Straw Dogs in there,
Oh yeah, that's something I've been seeing a lot of recently, actually, as people reflect back on it, because it's been like long enough, definitely since the first one, and enough content out there for it. Everyone's like, obviously, the first one gets like the home invasion vibe, right? And then the premise, I get to see both sides of the fence. I see people are like, this is what the premise should have been. I want to focus on a family. I want to focus on this. And then Anarchy comes out, and then I'm actually on the side of Anarchy that I'm like, I wanted to see the whole city. And then you have the people that when it ramps up into the geopolitical stuff, they're like, I wanted that. I wanted to know what the senator had to say about this. And it hits every different vibe to where I have yet to come across a person that's like, I love every Purge movie and everything about them, because they evolve and they look different. You get
They're
Ethan
trying
Hawke
to
in the
cover
first
all
one.
pieces of the pie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you'll love this. I was interviewing Chris Gann, who's a stunt coordinator. He's done everything.
Oh yeah.
Triple X, Lifetime movies, everything.
Oh yeah.
And 24. And out of the blue, he tells me, I know you're a movie buff. You've seen The Purge Anarchy, right? I'm like, yeah, twice. And he's just like, I'm the dude on that BMX bike who's chopping people
Oh, no way.
I'm like, oh, that's a scary scene.
Yep. Oh yeah, he's in that effective montage out there where it's just showing all the crazy stuff
the
going
way
on in
it's
the
shot,
streets.
I feel like I'm on a nearby bike seeing people run for their lives, and it's like it's so well executed with, especially when
Oh
the
yeah.
the couple that tags along, they're like, one of them breaks their leg while running. You're like, oh shit.
Oh yeah. And you get so much get a lot more like action horror going on, and like definitely in two.
Like a zombie
Three gets to be
movie.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like that. It felt like you got the main characters wandering the streets and
Romero
stuff,
might
and you're just like,
even applaud part 3 or even part 4, especially because they're black horror movies also, just like,
oh yeah, yeah. They end up, those were, in my opinion, I loved them. After um after 4 was where I struggled a little bit, but I like 1 through 4 was like exactly what I was wanting. Um, I will say, just 'cause we're talking about it as it goes on, the Forever Purge was the one I struggled the most with, and I did
good.
love like the change of the vibe. And I was like, oh, I love like families from Texas. I love like the Western feel, the farm feel. And I watched it on the plane, and I was like, man, I needed something to hit a little harder. But it's still for Purge fans, it's gonna
I'm with you.
diehard Purge fans, it hits it.
I'm with you. I had a lot of fun with it, and I do think a lot of I think if there's anything they actually got right, I definitely think there'd be a lot of poachers who would not be violating the rules instantly, just not honoring the whole 48-hour timeline.
Yep. Oh yeah.
They'd definitely be going for 36 extra hours. But yeah, I mean, I did feel like the villains were perfect. They were just like,
They were cool.
every white supremacist villain you could think of in one.
Yep.
And I wanted a little more screen time, but at the same time, I can kind of see why they just were like, let's just save them for last, because
Yeah,
you probably have an aunt or uncle who's like this, and you don't want
like we still have to like make these feel like characters, not like someone you knock on the door asking for a favor next door to you.
Yeah.
So, man, what's your favorite one of the bunch?
It's definitely a tie between. I think I'm gonna still have Anarchy on loop, but as Forever Purge, I would definitely want to watch again. Just
oh, that's awesome,
because the music is just a little more flavorful. When you first see all those, the main hero who's the rich family's ranch hand, and he just sees some other shady business going behind. He's like, oh, these are the other workers, the other ranch hands getting revenge and gonna slaughter this family. I guess.
Yep.
But fortunately, we've established, by being on a farm, I know all kinds of things, including how to use. I'm a rifleman, so I better.
Yep.
better get to business.
What I did like, one thing I really did like for the Forever Purge is like when we look at like 2, 3, and 4, like you get a lot more like dark scenes, dark hallway scenes, like dark tones throughout. And then when you get to that, they did a lot of stuff in broad daylight, a lot of stuff with like explosions, like fire and everything. It felt like loud. It felt like brightly lit. And so when I was watching, I think that was what I was watching. I was like, this tone has really changed, and they didn't care that it was like up in your face. They didn't want to, because especially you have montages in some of the early ones that you go through, and they're driving through the streets, and you look over, and there's like the guillotine off to the side.
Guillotine, Molotov cocktails setting cars on fire.
The damn, what are they? The little teddy bears that are hanging. I can't remember if that's. I think that's 2 or 3. I think that's first Purge actually. Where
that's true.
Like, teddy bears are hanging. That felt like more claustrophobic, like dark. This was like, oh, this is out in the open. Like you could just be walking like through in the broad daylight, and this stuff can happen.
Yes. Oh man, and I'm glad you brought up the guillotine, because they do try to also.
I love that shot.
Just all the different death traps they have to do. Yes. No one is safe anywhere, not even in an armored car. It's just
Oh yeah. You got the machine gun popping up outside.
Even in your bunker, half the time you find out, oh, the guy in the bunker with me orchestrated half this siege. So,
yep. It's wild. I was curious how deep they were going to go into some of that. Like the guillotine's a good example. Like, were they going to start making it not, I won't say like Saw, but like where you capture somebody and then you see that. But you didn't. It didn't
Tortured.
really evolve.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't really evolve into that, which I'm good with. Saw is for the stuff in Saw is for Saw, which I still love Saw, but there's a time and place for those types of movies, and so the Purge definitely wouldn't have been the place for that.
Yeah, this is definitely more like an extended Twilight Zone episode. We
Yeah.
joked about this with the Cube movies, where those are extended Outer Limits episodes.
Oh yeah, that's a good
And
way to put it.
just evil corporation, a bit of cyberpunk, and then death traps that bring out the worst in people. And half of you go half the movie thinking the survivor's innocent, and then they say something, you're like, oh, I should have
Yeah.
known. Now I got to look at their body language the next time I watch the movie, because it's more than just the plot twist I'm looking for.
Oh yeah.
Did you see the TV show at all?
I watched a little bit of it. I think I got about halfway through it.
Yeah, it's not for everybody, but I do
Yeah.
applaud them for bringing out having Ethan Hawke return. And
So that was what I was actually looking
season 2
was about a week ago. I didn't realize that he returned for season 2. So as I looked at that a week ago, I was like, I need to watch this all the way through, because I love the franchise enough where I want to, like, I need to give it a chance. I didn't even know there was a season 2. That's a good question. Because what did it originally stream on? It was not MTV. That was Scream, right?
Yeah, that was Scream that did that. It was on USA Network, and
yep. That's right.
Okay, well, you can buy it on.
It would probably be worth a buy if
it's streaming on Hulu, actually. Wow.
Oh, okay, that's an easy watch.
Peacock. Then. You can buy it on Prime. That's good. So they didn't just go to DVD. Wow, that's cool.
So how did you feel about the show?
I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I think there was 3 more years left in that. I think they wisely chose an anthology each season that would wrap up. Just like, okay, just have there be, a different set of characters. They're exploring the mythos a little more. Good directors and who's who of character acting. But and like many of these cable TV shows, it was so funny how they'd have the language be bleeped during the day, but as uncut at night. But either way, the violence was completely uncut.
Oh yeah. So would is there a specific movie you'd say it shares more of the vibe with, or like tone with? Is there any of them that, or is it kind of standalone?
I would reckon it's a little. It's got shades of the first movie, but it's kind of that mix between it's trying to cater to a Walking Dead crowd, but I like it more because it's also still making use of the Twilight Zone type concept, and they always had some really good actors playing the various villains of the season.
Oh yeah. Hey, that's half the battle. If you can get a iconic, I'll throw in the word iconic around, but a memorable villain like that, it can carry a lot of the show.
Absolutely. The last thing you want is just someone who just seems to come up with it last minute and not really.
Oh yeah, just kind of half flesh out a character that's going to be the antagonist, and then you get to the end, you're like, oh yeah, what was their motive again? Like, they're kind of just here.
Right. Yeah, I didn't run into any of that, which was good, because so many shows, if they don't have too many episodes ordered, then they risk, unfortunately, doing stuff like you say, they have too many people, and so next thing you know, they're just like, well, I mean, I'm not sure they have a purpose, or you could easily write them as this person.
Yeah, same thing happens with like main characters and protagonists. Like, if you kind of spread it out too much, like, do I remember any of these people, or this person was really strong, so like everyone focused on that, but so and so may have needed more screen time. They could have been beefed up as a character in the show, but that's why I like it. Shows you have a good chance to explore some of that stuff, a little more depth in like a 2-hour movie.
That's why many of our characters often get divisive with people, because we don't know how much of it is just not enough.
Absolutely.
Not enough of a intro, I guess.
Yeah, kind of just pop them in there for a purpose, and then you wrap up that purpose. You're like, I wish I would have got more of them, which happens a lot, I feel like, especially in long running shows.
Yeah.
Orange is like, I needed this person for 2, 3 seasons. So if you said it ended 3 years too early, you saying you wish there were more seasons to it? Like, I guess if it was
Yeah,
anthology, kind of had more to tell.
because I think just like with the movies, like let's say I didn't like these, I would still want to have
Mhm.
this conversation because I would want to
Mhm.
understand why it appeals to so many people. I know that's
Yeah.
not easy for everybody. Some people go, "Well, I don't like it, therefore I don't want to know more about it." And it's like, well, there's a reason
Mhm.
you that makes you tick. You
Oh
might
yeah.
want to rewatch it, or even if you don't like it, you can at least respect or have fun knowing that something's a cold hit. I'm just like, hey,
Mhm.
I, the concept really still speaks louder than words. We joked previously how politicians have wisely kept their mouths shut about this.
Mhm.
People
Yep.
who might be like some of the mini villains have wisely not said anything. They would probably risk feeling outed. It's just funny how
Yep.
that works.
Oh, absolutely. That's spot on. I'd be careful around certain things. Be like, are you joking? You kid? No, don't know these days.
It's really unfortunately that it's
Mhm.
come to that because unfortunately there's just I mean this hits home on how many people can fall for even a tyrant and they keep
Mhm.
twisting it, wanting to kill. We talked about all the other generals who are basically the kill squads.
Mhm.
And uh who was your main villain that you would associate with this? Maybe you even want to see more of. Obviously, they've talked about bringing the sergeant back and the stranger.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean,
I
those are
think
good
in the
guys, but
yeah.
they have to play dirty with anti-hero rules, which makes them fun. That's why they
Yeah.
get the Snake Plissken comparison.
Yeah. I mean, the anti-hero role is perfect for Fred Grillo. I think it's Fred Grillo that's in Anarchy. His
Yep,
anti-hero role is fantastic. I
yep.
wish I have a big soft spot for I know we see him a lot. I kind of wish he spanned over a little more than just one movie. But I guess the timeline wouldn't have worked out too much unless and because yeah, Kill. But Skeletor is the most interesting villain to me in
Hmm.
the first Purge. And I know it may be a common answer because he is just so eccentric and different. But I
Yeah.
was like, he just felt like unique. Like there's two sides of the coin in my opinion on some of these villains. It's like people that look normal that can do crazy stuff. Like
Yes.
I mean the people that are killing in the first movie, like I mean like you got kind of the group of people that show up at the door, but then also you have the family that's just next door. Like this just feels like normal, and that's scary in its own right. But Skeletor is the type of shit that if I was actually just trying to go grab a gallon of milk, I would obviously steal it during the purge. Wouldn't have to pay for it; just go snag it. And I saw him out there. That would scare me. So that's what I had. That's what I wish had a little bit more of him in it. But like I said, the timeline because of where that falls in the actual like chronological order of the movies, it'd be kind of hard
Mm,
even to have kept him surviving and moving forward. So I think there is a little bit of a time jump.
mhm.
Um, and then I can't remember if he has an actual character name. Um, but obviously
Uh,
in Anarchy, the guy that actually cuts the wire at the bottom of the car. Like obviously
oh yeah.
you actually find out that he was like helping kidnap people, and then they're in the back of the car or back of the truck exchange the money, and he's helping get them to where they're doing the game at essentially, and all the people are watching. Um, I wish we had a little more of him because like he was in all the promo, didn't really
Mhm.
talk any, just kind of stood there and stared, and I was like, he was like the face of the Purge franchise for a little bit for just
Yeah.
that small period. I actually dressed up for Halloween. I did the whole not as him, but I did the like Statue of Liberty, like neon mask and everything. I thought that
Oh
was really
sweet.
cool. Yeah, that was when that came, I was like, this looks so damn cool. So I wish like those kind of characters are the ones that intrigue me more. The eccentric villains. I'm like, that
Mhm.
is awesome because that's something I on a one night type thing. I'd be like, yo, what is going on? Or it is, but also the like random family next door, like having bad motive. That's also scary because that could just be anybody.
It could be anybody. Yep. And they're lucky they get to even hold them at gunpoint or knife and have them
Yeah.
spill the beans because most of them, you know, they're not sure if they'll survive the night now that they've been caught doing their diabolical scheme. It's like, good grief. I thought we were friends, but you've been thinking about this ever since this got legalized.
Yeah. The first one still cracks me up at the end. It's like a great way for it to end with when they're all sitting at the table and they're waiting on sun to rise. And then the wife next door just tries to make one last move, and she butts her with the end of the gun. She's like, "No more killing for tonight." And I'm like, "No, that's great." So someone just could have been killed at the end of this. But that's kind of awesome.
That's an underrated moment. Lena Headey actually doesn't get enough love for this role. Most people are just going to go, Terminator, Game of Thrones, Dread.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but
Game of Thrones is where I know her mostly from after I saw her.
300. Yeah, she's like one of those other reliable British actresses, but she's like, yeah, no, this was cool because she's playing a privileged housewife, but she still actually has a brain. She's like, no, stop it.
Yeah. She's like, I know y'all tried to come in here and kill us, but this all stops at 7 a.m. or whatever the time it was.
Yes.
So it cracked me up. And the home invasion, the home invasion piece of that was well done. It was just when you thought of the premise of the Purge, and then the first movie kind of is so concentrated. That's where I was like, okay, anarchy, like scratch that itch. But man, it's like, it's just so wild because it was something so unique, like the Purge concept, right? I think you may feel the same, but it's something no one had thought of, or in my opinion, like there may have been like doomsday type events, not catastrophic, but like stuff like this, but nothing that like walked the line of political, societal, like
definitely not that mainstream, at least. This is definitely the closest I can think is just some of the other edgy shows post 2000s that were, but see, for the most part, most of those were trying to emulate more crime stuff like The Shield or The Sopranos, and it's like, in a horror context, very rare. I mean, you had the occasional very grim X-Files episode, but again, not everyone remembered that in between all the hysterical and the other creepy and mysterious episodes. So I mean, for them to do this mainstream and pull it off, and it's still kicking, people are still lining up to see them. That's a good thing, And
like a lot of people love election year, I've noticed. Yeah. Which I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I was like, when about a week ago, I was looking up.
Given how divisive we are as a society, it is surprising,
Oh yeah, it was like, okay, we're gonna focus on, y'all are gonna get all the political stuff right now.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out.
This is not a test, this is what you made me do. Got me against the wall and you wanna blame me too. I've lost it all and you wanna hate me too. Pues a verá como nos toca, cause I hate you too. Ahí vamos por todo, ni modo, ain't no taking it back. You hate me for all that I have, that you know that you lack. Invisible to you, it's either white or it's black. So you painted me out to be bad, now I'm giving you that. But this isn't over, it's about to start. I got nothing to lose and everything in my heart is telling me that it's time. I'm going against the odds when this shit is life and death. Then what the fuck is a law? This y me patearon. Mi trabajo quebraron y hasta lo pisotearon. Me hicieron sentir menos, me pusieron 1000 peros. 1000 veces me vi en cero, insultos me dijeron. Pero yo no soy la víctima ni tampoco soy monstruo. Lo que pasa es que la venganza por fin tiene rostro. Por fin yo tengo el gozo de salirme del lodo, de los días tormentosos, ahora sí me las cobro.
And we're gonna have commentary on both sides, but we're gonna ramp it up to 1,000. And they sure did. I think that's why it was so refreshing. Like it was, they said, "Hey, by the way, this is the route we're going." Like the new founding fathers was like, "That's fine with me. I enjoy it. Let's get a little crazy out here."
Totally, man. let's go for it. Let's just. And I actually didn't know that it came out before the last few elections. It's like, wow, okay.
Yeah, knew something. It's like The Simpsons predicting events.
Someone was looking at the crazy feeds and saying, well, here's what I've seen.
They may have had the script. They may have had the script for it, though.
They might have.
But I thought election year had some of the best like costume design too. Like I said, the Statue of Liberty mask is awesome. There's a lot of other things. There's the Kiss Me mask, like the white one that's infamous that people see all over the place. Like there's so much stuff throughout there, and you got someone running around with like a George Washington mask on, I think.
Yeah, a bunch of as many well-known ones as well as infamous ones, and you're like, I see.
Yeah, I thought about that a lot when I watched Thanksgiving this past year, and like it had like the pilgrim mask. I was like, what other like hilarious mask is this? And it was that one from election year. I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I was thinking of every time I see this now, and I couldn't get out of my head.
Perfect. Well, and see, I think this is it. Like, this is more than just any kind of movie monster who's in the last 5 minutes of a otherwise mysterious film or anything else like that. Is like here now we're seeing them really just kind of just encapsulate, like you see one of these masks, but it also represents most of one of the violent gangs that they're paired with. And so it's almost like you're watching different kinds of gangs that you heard about, but it's like, no, but they don't have the everyday tattoos or insignias that would make you know is like, hey, is this a typical violent gang like the Blood and Crips, or is this a radical gang like a neo-Nazi or anarchist shithead? It was like, no, it's all like you say, the art direction's good, the makeup's good, the masks and the actors and stunt performers are all good. It's like this is what it is. You're gonna walk down the street and you're gonna see crazy outfits and costumes, and they're all gonna have weapons on them too. Surprisingly, I mean, the closest you mentioned Scream earlier. I think that's the closest I can think of where it was a different killer every time, but they almost always were a copycat wearing that same wardrobe, ghost mask. Oh yeah. And like the latest Scream, what were they on? Scream 6. Like they've done it before, but having the multiple ghost faces, like, and there are some killer shots in that too. No pun intended. Of like, I don't like to always skip to the climax of the film, but this shot rings in my head all the time. When you see two of the ghost faces, they turn, they both have a knife, and they blood, and you're like, it's like in sync. And I'm like, yeah, this is. Yes. We're doing this. Let's do this. Yep. And they're in that. They're in like the Shrine, the Scream. I have a soft spot for the Scream movies. Even though there's some that aren't my favorites, but I'll see them anytime they're going to come out. Yeah, kind of like the Purge movies, man. If there's a Purge movie out, I'm seeing it. It's comfort food mixed in with some fun concepts. Yeah, I mean, what else do you want your popcorn with? Right. And I think that's why, not talk too broad, but I think that's why like horror has always been my favorite genre. Because you can tell so many stories and you can do so many unique things. You said Evil Dead earlier. That franchise is top tier for me. Whether it be Evil Dead Rise, Evil Dead 2013, that quote unquote remake is one of my favorite horror films ever. Like in my top 5, because I'm obsessed with just what they did with that movie. And I don't think I know it gets a lot of credit. I don't think it gets enough credit. And then that's not even talking about Evil Dead 1 and 2 back then. I even like
I can't remember the name of Evil Dead 3. It has where he goes
Army
and
of Darkness. Yep.
yeah, it's such a shift in tone. But even as an Evil Dead fan, I'm like, I'm gonna watch this just because I love Campbell, so I'm gonna watch it.
There you go, man. And it is fun. Like Bruce Campbell would even describe it himself. He'd encounter fans who thought that series was stupid but loved it. He'd encounter people who were in love with it. It was like what got them into the horror genre. And then there were other people who just loved anything campy or B movie esque. And he was just like, jump on board, man. It's just like, yeah. And they were all very nice, you know? And
oh yeah,
it's rare. Yeah, it's just
some don't like the comedy, some do, and I like it. I like the fact that they threw some comedy, especially starting in Evil Dead 2.
What's the point if you're not going to enjoy that?
I know. That's that's why I almost.
But you'd be surprised, like you say, you'll sometimes see people who an actor leaves and they're like, oh, I don't like the show anymore. I'm like, well, I mean,
the bones are still there.
Right, the mechanism's still there. Are you like character's not even the main character, and you're saying you left because he's no longer on? Okay, well.
Yep. All right. So be it. And that's those people. They sometimes miss out on some really great stuff that they probably would have enjoyed.
I mean, it's a lot of trouble just to go to anything. I would hate to be watching a movie just because of even the content, just because it's violent or sexy. I'm like, well, what about the stuff that's in between the exposition? That's a lot of, unless you're fast forwarding, which, and again, what's the point?
Yeah. And like, and I know someone that told me this isn't horror, but Oppenheimer has like the 2 sex scenes in it. And they're like, I can't watch it because like, I don't want to, like, I just don't feel like this movie needed sex scenes. And I'm like,
God,
that movie is fantastic. I'm a Cillian Murphy stan movie. Yeah.
So
I'm like, I was like, I think you can get through a minute and a half of.
I've been seeing an increase in it, dude. I've even seen people turn off because of certain violence, like, and I'm like, what? He so and so just held up a knife to someone's throat. Or like, oh, they stabbed him. I'm like, no, they didn't stab him at all. So I think a lot of people are just getting impatient, or I don't know, man. I think a lot of people's imaginations are running rampant, and it's like, well, I'm not saying talk to a therapist. Trust me, I have talked to a therapist, but 6 times, and it's great. I don't look down on it, but I mean, if something, don't blame a movie because of your own disposition.
Yeah, it's like it's a form of art, and different people think of stuff creatively, and that's how it is. Like we were talking about Terrifier a little bit earlier.
Yes,
kind of the purge that like Terrifier is. This is actually a great little tidbit. When I interviewed David Howard Thornton, we ended up walking this comment back because he was 100% right. We said, there's not a lot of plot to this movie, and he goes, well, hold on. He goes, actually, if you look at it from Art the Clown, because he is the person who embodies the character. He laid out all this reason on why there's actually plot and reason behind what Art's doing, and he's like, "What next time you watch it? Like, I know you're watching Art, but only think about Art and not the other character." I was like, "Yeah, I get it. I get it." And I'm like, so now I can not think of this as being Damien Leon's like gore child, even though it is definitely his gore child.
He's the actor doing the backstory, regardless of what's filmed or not.
Yeah, he had to get into a character that had a backstory, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's like, it's just. People show different stuff in different ways, but like you said, if people are overly sensitive to it, I think they're missing out on
I'll give you some hope
content.
here. I'll give you some hope here. We did an Indiana Jones ranking recently. We were very sarcastic.
Oh, nice.
We said, do you want to give how many boulders out of 5 do you give this, or do you want to give the snake pit? And surprisingly, Temple of Doom was the big favorite, and some of those guys aren't really into dark fantasy or horror, but they're just like perfect party movie, love.
Yeah.
What's his name? The villain.
I know you're talking about. I can see him.
He has a very specific one, Malo Ram, and it just just how the way he just bellows out his taunts and everything, and they're like, well, what other movie are you gonna get a guy who takes your own heart while your body isn't even shut down yet? Like, that's creepy.
Yeah, party movie is a great way to put that. Like, you're hanging with a group of friends, like,
I mean, that's
and
how
you're
they
gonna toss on
crew-
one of them. That's what you toss on.
I mean, you're talking about the filmmakers. That's how they approached it. They were trying to recreate old B-movie serials that sometimes had shocking scenes before Roger Corman kind of became the next big face of that.
Yep, which can be so fun. Like I'm going people shooting for campy B movies. Like I know, *Malignant* by James Wan was met with people were like, "Oh, I loved this movie. Oh, I hated this. What was this movie?" And I'm like, "It's campy on purpose. They gave James Wan a budget, and he wanted to go full campy on it, and he sure did."
I
And
think that's
they were
where
like,
I got confused because I thought
it gets
the
so
acting-
out there.
the acting
Oh
was
yeah,
so-
yeah. I agree there. We covered it. That was like towards the end of when we were recording episodes, and we same thing. We're like, I was like, I'm watching this and I'm like trying to figure out this twist, and I'm like, it's cool visuals because it's like James Wan's not gonna miss on those. But I was like, I can't buy into any of these people right now. I was like, the only person I'm bought into is the main character because like something has to be happening.
Well, and she's so excellent. I think
Yeah.
I've seen her, and she's a great screen queen.
Yeah, she's a Grace and Peaky Blinders. She's incredible in that. That I'm blanking on her name, but that was what I was bought in on. But it was the same thing. It was like I understand why people couldn't buy into that, even though like James Wan's like, I want to make this movie this way, and I'm gonna do it that way. And if you like it, sure. If not, it's okay.
A lot of people will let just the smallest thing just like eat them up, and it's like, don't do that, dude. Come on.
Yeah, I was like, but the rest of it was so like I saw Long Legs a few weeks ago, when that came out a few weeks ago.
Wait.
And it's still fairly recent, so I'm not gonna say too much about it. But it's a lot of the advertising was this is the most terrifying film you'll see since
I
Hereditary.
saw that
That's what I
review.
saw.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it. It's
not yet. I will. I promise.
It's good. Go into it open minded. Because the marketing knocked it out of the park. And hype is real for it, but
I mean, that's how I am with The Exorcist, where I'm like, it's good. It doesn't scare me, probably because I'm not spooked out by religious beliefs and everything. But I think it's a good movie.
It's a perfect way to put it. Some people may be terrified of this movie. Me personally, I went in and I was like, this isn't that scary, but it's different. It's a certain tone that they were going for, which I think they hit on the tone, but between the tone and trying to be really creepy, they hit on that. So it just depends on what scares people. So, and that's like, I feel like that's the way with a lot of this stuff. Like the concept of the purge is extremely scary to a lot of people.
Yes.
Just the concept itself. And then you get what the movies actually toss in there for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, kudos to, I mean, again, it's McCaffrey's project, but I like how he brings in different people to helm it each time. Sometimes he steps in the director's chair and it's like, see, that's a creative process. It's not just the actors made it, the art and design was good, and even the CGI is probably really only spent on occasional gore, and the most part I would probably say it's color correcting.
Right. So is there more? So what's next in the Purge franchise? You were talking about that before.
I
think I remember reading some. Have they got a working title for it yet?
Not yet, but I mean,
okay.
We were joking around what we'd like to see. It'd be funny if they set one in Russia or.
Oh God, yeah. So, So is Russia your main idea? Or you got any other ideas you think would be great for a sixth one?
You could have Hollywood. You could have some other infamous. Place filled with scandal. Chicago. I don't know.
Just put it in Detroit and just film Detroit.
Oh my God.
You wouldn't need anybody.
Saw the movie Detroit. Now see the Purge. Detroit.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Oh, there you go. God, they could do
then we got
there's
Peter
all
Water
that.
being it.
Yep. Oh, 100%. You got there was that big, what was that big story in Florida? There was like the Florida man that was on bath salts. You could go do all the crazy Florida stuff. I'm not too far from Florida, so that's why I hear all the hilarious Florida stuff. And I'm like, man, I was like, these every other week you hear some crazy story about guy weaponizes an alligator. I'm like, what are we? I was like, Purge though. That'd be spot on. They could go real crazy with it, but like you said, Forever Purge, like shit, like that felt like ranch Western. I was like, that's cool because it doesn't feel like you're in some big condensed city that is home. That's either, I know they changed that a little bit with Staten Island. I think is where the first Purge experiment happens. So like the ranch hands that you're talking about, and the farm and everything, and the full on ranches and stuff that Forever Purge shifts to. So I think they're going to get creative with it. I mean, they have to, right? You can't go. I feel like you can't go backwards and just try to do something similar to what they've done before.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and that is a good point on the cities. They still pick areas where it's like this could be a middle class city versus bigger city, but not something so reliant. I mean, and they don't write themselves into a corner. There's never a scene where they're trying to get like to an airport or something where you're like, there's no way they're getting on that ramp or at that time.
Right. We feel about
the state heads don't have much to complain to about saying, you lost me. That's not how that works.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's not too much. I saw someone say, they're like, why don't people just go rob a bank, like, instead of, because it's always so focused on like murder and stuff like that. And I think they actually say in one of the movies that they move all the like cash and banks to private accounts. Like,
I think they did. Yeah,
I think they. I thought so too. And I was like, that's a good point. But I was like, but I think they did put that in there to like kind of plug that plot hole.
It also just wouldn't be too cinematic. You know, we've seen so many endless heist movies. It's like that would take less than a few hours.
Yeah, and there'd be no resistance. Like, it's like if you're going to steal something, it's like you just walk into a convenience store outside of, obviously outside of the first Purge, where people are actually like boarded up and standing outside their convenience stores with the guns and stuff like that. Like that feels more real. Like, if that, I talked about the first Purge. I think it does have a lot of real aspects to it. They focus on the small neighborhood, like the impoverished living that's going on there too. And I really like that movie. Is one of my favorites in the entire franchise because of that.
That is a good point. That's and that just kind of a lot of those moments kind of allow for the slow burn.
Yeah, and I like that. Like, it's there's a time and place for a slow burn too. You don't have to ramp everything up like just off rip. And I'm like, give me something to look forward to, and it does. I wonder how like a mountain town would work. I think maybe would it be too close to like The Strangers or something?
I mean, you could have some backwoods stuff if you want.
Yeah. Whole sheriff's department's trying to take down. Or I guess they wouldn't need to. But I wonder how the political piece would pay into it.
I mean, the filmmakers, have worked on plenty of cops and robbers and dirty cop movies. So I mean, if they want to go that angle, they could have some Mad Apple in the Blue Wall.
Oh yeah, like someone. I mean, they already went the route with hiring like SWAT team to help facilitate the killing. So I'm like, they'll go that route.
Yeah.
I was always confused on that. Let me ask your thoughts on this too. Is because when I was watching it, it felt like they were doing like the SWAT team being hired to go in and kill people. Just felt like they were trying to the two thoughts I had were they were either trying to ramp up the population control, with like
I kind of got a gist of that. Yeah.
Or it felt like they were just trying to get it so people will so the idea will grow itself. So I was kind of on the fence about between those two ideas, and I may be completely off for both of them.
I definitely got a sense of population control, if you will.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah,
definitely tampering and using this to their advantage. You're like, hey, they said crime's legal, so we can become a kill squad for one night and get rid of the gangs that have been plaguing our city. But yeah, it's just like, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's illuminating too, is like, just wait till I see a similar thing that comes across in a scandal.
Yep. Oh yeah. And they're like, okay, well, if someone was to bring it up, like, it's probably they'll probably have something to fall back on that they didn't, like, oh well, they were out there trying to protect somebody. They came at them, and they were the ones with the cameras and stuff like that, so they could get rid of it if they wanted to.
There you go. And
oh yeah.
Oh man, and be careful who your neighbor is. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. Could just be a nice family. You never know.
They could. And I mean, I've encountered some people where it's just like, hey, I'd love to say hi to you, but you have such a terrible dog who's trying to kill me.
Yep. And the dogs, obviously, they participate in the purge too. So you got to be careful around them in the nighttime, especially those aggressive dogs. My dog's tiny. He wouldn't be able to do nothing.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's the other thing too. When I encounter people who don't like Halloween, it's like, well, I mean, my street's been pretty lame last 3
Mhm.
years. It's gotten a little better because people got more original instead of just
Mhm.
being the billionth space opera or slasher person. They actually put some thought into a few different ones. I saw some
Right.
people doing Universal Monsters and Flintstones. I'm
Oh,
like,
that's cool.
okay, cool. That's different for once. But
Yeah.
I see other people getting freaked out because sometimes crime happens on Halloween. It's like, well, it unfortunately there's always going to be a terrible person. So yeah, always have your pets inside. Always have.
Mhm. Oh,
Always
absolutely.
check the candy.
Yeah,
Anyway.
like, yep, got to. I love you said Universal Monsters because those. Oh God, I love seeing like a classic like Frankenstein just walking down the street, like old school bolts in the neck. I wish we had like Creature from the Black Lagoon. Like I don't see any of those. I may have to ramp that one up for my Halloween outfit this year. I got to figure out what I want to be. Because like I said, I did the Purge one, and I was like, that was so fun. I like doing all out ones, but for the last few years, I've been slacking. I haven't done a good one since the Purge one, and I felt like I went pretty all out on that one. They just have so much source material to do with that.
Yeah, I think they'll get there. It's just we don't know when or where.
Yeah, I'm excited. I wonder what they. I mean, I feel like there's obviously you got like the cache of horror movies coming out the rest of the year, but I need
Blumhouse will leave them
maybe
alone, let them do what they want.
yeah.
There's no rush, but yeah,
They'll promote. They do a good job of when something's on the horizon. Like Jason Blum he'll like stagger his news. He'll either drop all his news at once for like 3 movies, or he'll like stack, or he goes through that like we're working on this Five Nights at Freddy's 2 mask, and then they're
there
like
you go.
and then they're like this is coming out in October. They like stagger it decently enough, and I will say they do a good job of promoting stuff. It gets people excited.
Kudos to anyone doing marathons of this, you know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh man. Man, too much fun. This went above and beyond. What do you think you'll be covering on your blog in the future?
So I want to continue. So I have 2 things. Like I said, I have the longer blogs, and then I'm trying to do what I'm calling like. Well, I guess there's 2 things I'm bouncing between. One, I'm doing like snippet reviews, and I haven't come up with a name of it. Those are the ones that are going to be a lot short. They're like going to be like 3 paragraphs. It's like quick thoughts, and then I have my long blogs.
I love it.
But
yeah.
I'm trying to use Twitter more effectively because like the blogs, obviously you have to go to the site, click on it, and review it, like read it. So that's cool and stuff.
But know that they've actually read it.
yeah, like it's like that's one thing. But I did start something when I was on vacation last week, and I did it for. I actually did it. It was not even related to a movie. I did it on the Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom casting. And I called it. It was on Twitter. I just did a thread of my own tweet. So I quote tweeted it, and I said like, I think I called it because I have time thread, and I just like listed my thoughts in like 5. I tried not to blow people's Twitter up, but I listed like my thoughts in like 5 tweets underneath it. And I'm gonna try to do that some where I can like. It's not blog style, but like have a lot of thoughts where it won't blow up people's page, but they can click on that and then see the thoughts. I have a lot of buddies that are Marvel fans, really big Marvel fans, and I like Marvel too. But I'm not diehard. So I was like, okay, well, I just basically open box. I said, here's the good, here's the bad, here's what I think. So I want to be doing that. Let
it eat you out. See, that's the other thing that drives me crazy too, where franchises is like everyone acts like you must love every single one, and like that's impossible. Like there's always going to be one which went too far or wasn't as good as the last hat trick. It's just
and I had like I haven't seen it yet. I asked I want to like with the blog I want to keep exploring that, but I want to use the Twitter to get like more people's thoughts. Like you said, sometimes it's really good thoughts you get. Sometimes it's It is wild. Like I think I
Jesus,
was
dude. Yeah.
one thing I was like I've heard mixed reviews, which is true. I've heard mixed reviews. One buddy of mine for Deadpool versus Wolverine was like, "There's too many cameos. Like, I don't even know where the movie is at between all these cameos."
I get a
and then
lot of
someone's like,
flack from people all the time
Yeah.
when my rule with sequels is I like them to be kind of standalone. And unfortunately, a lot of other people want to connect all the dots. I'm like, it's too much work for one
Yep.
puzzle piece. But yeah, I don't know. Everybody's different
Yeah.
on those.
I had one person respond to that because I just gave the two sides of what I had heard, and I was like, "What does everyone else think?" I wanted to hear personally whatever was pretty soon. I'm going to see it anyway. But one guy responds and he goes, "It was utter dog shit," and that's all he said. I was like, "That's hilarious," and I was like, I responded back. I was like, what'd you think? Like, what made you think that? I'm real curious because I've heard
Can
people
you
not liking it, but
elaborate?
not to that degree. And he didn't elaborate. I was a little sad. I wanted to hear more about it, but I'm still going to plan on covering movies. I'm planning on covering Trap this weekend. I liked it was the M. Night Shyamalan movie that came out with Josh Hartnett. I saw that last week. I'm going to see
Nice.
Twisters next week. So I'm going to try to do some stuff. And I watched Abigail, the horror comedy with the vampire yesterday.
Right.
I think that one's going to. Yeah, who directed that?
It was the one that's gonna.
I saw it right before I turned it on. Oh my god, I'm blanking. Not Megan.
No, not Megan. It was I know these guys. They were the ones who did Ready or Not. Yeah.
Radio Silence.
Yes. Ready or Not. I think they worked on Radio Silence, and then they worked on some of the VHS movies, and they wrote Scream, the last two Screams. Yeah, but I know mainly for Ready or Not.
Yeah, Ready or Not's amazing. Samara Weaving's fantastic in that. But I want to cover. I think Abigail. I'm going to do like one of those snippet series. Like I did the Netflix movie Under Paris in a snippet series because I love shark movies, but I just wanted to get thoughts out there on that. Like I said, Iron Claw. I've enjoyed it. Wanted to get some thoughts out there, so I'm hoping to really like have a few more of those in the bank. But also trying to grow the blog, and really what I want is it to be like an authentic extension of myself, like how I actually talk about stuff like I'm talking to you right here. Like it's not doctored or tried to say in a certain way. It's just it's not just spitting on a page, but it's thoughts are pouring on the page. I'm like, how would I actually say this? Right.
I hear you, dude.
Let me not worry about this too much.
I had to quit a few different blogs just because some of them wanted to kind of make clickbait, or they were afraid of getting slammed by the filmmakers. It's like, it's a free country. Obviously there's always going to be a bad sport. Just say what's on your mind. Oh no, it's a real hot take. I'm like, and it's your take. But as long as you back it up and don't go on a rant, you should be fine. And he's like, I don't want the
there's a
accent. It's like, then hire someone else to write it, but don't give a fake review. And of course, he wouldn't listen.
You could find somebody to write exactly what you want, or you could do it. But if you want to find someone that's going to have like their own thoughts and stuff, like you can let the people like us like actually say what we want to say. Like
man.
But it's hard because there's a lot of people that blog out there, and like you said, like I try not to make any titles clickbaity. When I do a title, I'm like, I want to actually make it feel like what I want the blog to encompass. So like maybe I'll say what some people thought it was going to be, and then what I thought. Just real snippet. Try to get creative with the wording. Have fun with it. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to have fun with it. Growing the Twitter page is awesome because like it helps with the reach in general. But also there's like thousands and thousands of they're just bot pages that follow you, and you're like, oh, like just the number in the top left of my Twitter is going up, but it's not like people that are actually going to look at that. So it's just, I want to engage with people, and it's and using the blog to do that is, if that helps me out to do that, I'm really excited about what I get to do with all that and just get the thoughts out there.
Make it electrical.
No, yeah, that's the goal.
Lovely.
Now, with your podcast, you how often do you cover topics and have these talks with people?
Oh, constant. But I try to spread them out. If I got to split them up into different episodes, I do that too. I
Mhm.
have been loving some of the round tables because it just helps it
Mhm.
become more of a variety show.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously when we get to the holidays, there's always some sarcasm thrown in around
Mhm.
Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. So
Got to. It makes it fun. It's like people that say, "Oh, I'm in this group of people." I watch Krampus every Christmas season, no matter
there
what.
you go.
And I'm like, I'll watch Home Alone, and I'm watching Krampus, and that's just how it's going.
Nice.
Like I can't miss out on that.
Totally. Got to make it happen.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely, man.
Oh man. Oh, it's always fun. We had fun picking each other's brain, but also I think bringing up some undercurrent of stuff that also kind of goes unnoticed to where it makes you wonder if people even watch the movie. Yeah.
Right, like this type of conversation, like the talking of the details and having it like naturally branch off into comparing it to stuff that people may not regularly compare it to. I love that.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
makes it so enjoyable because everyone has something that reminds them of something else, right? So like it's it's all in the movies, and having
Instead of
somebody like me hearing
getting
your thoughts on it's awesome.
well, and it's kind of one of those things where you want to also know if you're on the right track and
Mhm.
go more with than just I've heard people talk about this. Was it ever actually confirmed? Or is
Oh,
it just
absolutely.
people on a blog getting their minds
Mhm.
carried away?
Yeah, and like you never know, like if someone just pulled wording of their own wording from a blog, so like that's more natural. Like talking through it makes me feel like it's more like listening to you and I personally. It makes me feel like I said, we watch the movies, we have original thoughts of this, and yes, it may line up with some other people's thoughts, but it's not us looking at a web page and saying, "Man, this is what this person said about it, and this is what it is."
And then, yeah.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
be unpredictable. I mean, I see other people, they're funny, but then I see other people, they're trying too hard to be funny. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
come on. You're really distracting
Yeah.
from. I think everyone wants to just know your take on it and why many
Oh
feel
yeah.
this way. I don't know.
Yeah, that was with the podcast stuff. Like it was when I was doing that podcast, and my partner at the time was he's really big into the production. He was an actor. He still is doing acting.
Good.
But it like was wanting to be super segment driven or always have a guest. And sometimes I just wanted to air it out. I'd want to get on there and just, hey,
That's too
talk
much.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, let's just talk about it. And he's like, we don't let's not cover the whole film. I was like, but there's so much I want to talk about. Okay, we'll talk about this. We'll do best kills or something like that in this horror
Yeah,
movie.
there you go.
It's a lot to keep up with, and I really enjoy it. It's just a lot to keep up with.
Yeah.
So kudos to you, man, for doing these talks all the time and going to the podcast style.
It was fun, but it didn't happen overnight either. And I had to remind
Mhm.
people, like, okay, I'm not saying this is becoming work, but it's one step away from becoming work. I think
Mhm.
I need to rein it in a bit. But then I also had to let everyone be more freed up. And I tried to suggest topics that they would have known more about.
Mhm.
And then there even got to a point where I was like, maybe I don't really have to cover this yet. It's always going to be around,
Mhm.
or we can wait a little more on that. Watch it
Mhm.
with a set of fresh eyes. And it even got to times where I just was like, do you even want to cover something like this? Why not just tell everyone, hey,
Yeah.
I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, like you can let some pass up sometimes. Like there's plenty of stuff I was like, man, I need to cover this, and I thought about it a little more, and I was like, no, it's okay. It's
Heart's
okay
not
if
in
like someone just asked me my
it.
thoughts. Yeah, I don't want to half-ass put something in a blog or half-ass try to talk about something with somebody. I'll give thoughts on it if I'm asked about it, surely. But I like to sit down and
It'd
try
be
to put
less
some
than 5
craft to it.
minutes. So that's a
Yeah.
lot of
And
trouble.
I noticed it too. I don't know if it's on the same thing about doing like the podcast when you're
When
talking by yourself.
when you're running it, you got the editor slide. I mean, it helps that I worked at a crappy internet radio station and I was the guy
Mhm.
timing the segments.
Yep.
And I worked on a few other podcasts that weren't very good. don't get me wrong, I'm still friends with those people. They're indie filmmaker buddies, but the voice just wasn't there. And it just got to that point where it was like, okay, I'm doing way too much bitching. I don't like that. I don't want to be that guy. And at the same time, I might as well do it better. And as the editor, you're the judge, jury, and executioner all the time. I notice I let out a joke that came off unintentionally insensitive. And I'm like, I'm going to remove that. No one will ever
but
hear
you
it.
get to control that piece of it.
Bingo. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. And better safe than sorry. It's like, this was meant to come out this week, but there's been a lot of current stuff that might take this out of context, or I don't know. Someone
that
feel like
happens a lot. Even movies get paused and trailers get pushed back because like that's a little too close to current events. Like,
unfortunately,
Oh yeah.
It's so funny how sometimes I was feeling this 2 years ago. I was like, no, I feel like everyone's talked about that. So let's, what are we going to do our spin on?
Well, like you said, getting creative with like the topics and trying to cover some of that stuff. That's where you got to really be on top of stuff. Like if I was sitting there and I was like, I only want my blog page to get clicks, and that's really all I want out of it. Then as soon as I saw Trap, I would have dropped a major like spoiler heavy blog and just spammed it all over the pages and tried to be the first person to have thoughts on it.
That's what's wild too.
Yeah. I want to sit back and put my thoughts on paper. I'm like, if this is what I actually think about this, and this is what I want to portray to people that read it. I want them to actually feel like I thought about this for a little bit.
I have fun going back to certain DVD or movie review blogs and seeing which ones aged pretty well back in 2005 when they posted even 2016 ones, and you're like, that dude's a dick. But see, to be fair, not to defend him, we were kind of laughing at that kind of snarky humor back then. So everything's kind of a systematic issue. It's kind of like, who do I get mad at? Do I get mad at the wrestler who's trash talking, the football player who's douche, or the rock star who parties too hard? Or do I blame the various, legion of fans who came there to see him be a bad boy, for 2 hours?
Like, oh, this is like, he's such a mean bully. Like, but you have to have that bully in the movie to like.
I've been on reality shows. I was on a stupid episode of Cheaters not too long ago, back in 2018.
Oh man!
And the producer was a hoot, and
oh my god!
But who do I blame? The people who participate in this, or the people who tune in for this and buy into it?
No, you're spot on. Like my buddy's he's a big Love Island fan, and he's like, they crank those shows out, and anyone that I've heard talks bad about Love Island, I'm like, well, there's people that watch every episode every night, and that's just what they enjoy.
Right?
They're just,
that's their bread and butter.
It's real. Whether it's reality TV or like you said, or if there's movies that have characters with really bad morals, people are like, oh, that's like such a bad boy. Like Billy from Stranger Things. Like, oh, he's such a bad boy. I'm like, he is very mean to his sister and their friends, and it just. Then he becomes like this heartthrob, but that
goes back to even some of the other ones where it's like, I'm not sure if fans are just deliberately trolling or if they're actually believing that way. I'm not sure anymore.
Right. I know. Can't tell. I'm like, all right, I know it's
guys
like
were doing that where they were rooting for the different families. I'm like, oh, good Lord.
Oh yeah, they gotta be aligned with something.
It's funny you mentioned Billy. I'm gonna try and rewatch Better Watch Out, that Christmas hostage movie.
I actually love that. I need to watch that around Christmas. It's like if Home Alone was a horror movie.
Yeah,
because there's Home Alone traps and stuff.
I love unofficial Christmas movies every year.
Yep. God, it's great. That one's a good. I don't think I watched that last Christmas. I need to make sure I watch it this season. I watched I think I watched one of the review videos just to get my taste of it. Yeah, just to get my taste of it. And I was like, yes, good. It hits all the right spots.
Hits nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah, I watch YouTube videos for stuff that I've already watched. I try not to do it for stuff I hadn't seen yet because I want to watch it in its entirety. but the review ones are always fun to be like, oh, like this is what this person's thoughts are. Like, oh, I didn't really pay attention to this. I'm like, but then again, it's you got to be careful to make sure you come up with your own thoughts on the stuff too. It's okay to watch a YouTube video and not agree with it entirely.
Yeah, that's what I'm also annoyed by too. Is just some people are watching it for the persona and not even the movie review, and there are times, other stuff. But that is true too. When I see a review, I at least like to quote them, and then make the disclaimers. Like, I'm not saying they're on the right path, but a quarter of that I think is exactly what the filmmaker's going for. I just.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You're exactly right.
I don't want to rip them off unintentionally. It's just like music guys. Half the time they get in trouble because they unintentionally use someone else's lyrics during the demo.
Yeah, even if it's somebody just like in a video or in a video call like this, and like if for some reason we sang 8 to 9 seconds of some song, like that would get close to if you had that up on YouTube. So, but yeah, you're right. The brand, like people are built in on making a brand on the review videos, and you can tell when someone's wanting to do like an honest review, and then those they're like you said I won't really say they have like bits. Yeah, they may have bits built in, and that's just how they go, and they build the review around that. Which I'd prefer the review be built around the review, but.
Bingo. Instead of everyone dorked around.
Yep.
The camera was on.
Yep, that's exactly right.
It's funny though too how these different styles work in a different medium. Like I think the Purge could work as a video game. It might even be more fun for video gamers because they're misbehaving like Grand Theft Auto. But then it can work as a book series, but you'd have to tell the people it's okay. Not everything.
Book series would be good.
Not everything has to be Clive Barker or popular like Stephen King. It can just be its own thing. But then it is funny how you mentioned with reviews. Yeah, it's like there's other movies and shows. It's like, yeah, this only works as a show. It doesn't work as a movie, or it works as a book, but it would be tedious if it was a video game. It's just
right. I think you're right. I think Purge for book or video game would work. Video game would have to be, you'd have to come up with a good storyline's got right there, but something that's a little different. Man. Yeah. My God, yeah. You're right. The book would be the one I would be most interested in. Because I think that could get really because you could cover so much detail in a book.
It's as creepy as your imagination wants to be.
Exactly. It's like you're not being told what you're seeing like a movie is, but you're being told and then you envision it. That's what I do. Like a good horror or a good thriller book is tough to beat.
Yeah. I mean, awesome. If anything, just rip off 1984 and then just insert Purge type stuff in there.
Yeah. You do a lot of that.
Watching you. Yeah.
Yeah. That would work. That would definitely work.
Something, man.
That's awesome.
Something. Hey, delight having you. We'll have you back very soon.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a